Do you love God but still feel anxious or overwhelmed? Have people or experiences shaken your ability to trust? Have you tried to pray harder, push through, or think differently but still feel stuck? Would you like to finally be able to calm your mind and emotions? I've been there. I struggled for years with anxiety, intrusive thoughts, and feeling like I was failing spiritually when I wasn't actually at fault at all. I was simply experiencing the effects of trauma in my nervous system. Now, as a licensed professional counselor and certified EMDR therapist, I help other Christian women to understand and process what's happening to them so that they can experience the healing that Jesus provides through good therapy. That can be a miracle too. Welcome to Trauma Healing for Christian Women. I'm Michelle Croyle, and I'm here to tell you that you're not failing, you're wounded, and wounds can heal. So grab your favorite beverage, a notebook and pen, and take a deep, relaxing breath because you're about to be refreshed. Let's get started. Today, I want to answer a question that I think almost every one of us has asked at some point in our lives, whether we realize it or not, is what is a healthy person? What is normal, right? And let me just start by saying normal is not really a thing. The norm might be the most typical or something like that. But when we're talking about humans, we're talking about uniquenesses, and we're talking about unique perspectives, unique histories, unique ways of putting concepts together, ways of behaving, choices and actions, behaviors. All of that goes into how we interact with each other and what comes out of us and how we impact other people. And so when we talk about relationships, specifically when we come into an awareness of how we grew up, our own family of origin, as we call it in therapy, what that gave us, both in good and negative ways, right? Because we are raised by people. Every person has somebody who was supposed to do the job of raising them and may have done it great, may have done it poorly, may have done it somewhere in the middle. But even the best parents mess up. And so we need to take assessment of how did people's mess ups impact us. Every person has been impacted by imperfect people, no matter how much they loved us or how good or bad in their actions or words they were. We probably have some things that impacted us as children before we had the resources to understand what was going on. And that was the only worldview we knew. And then we grow up, and if we end up in a relationship with a significant other, a spouse, we then are also interacting with everything that that person grew up with. So maybe you're married and you're trying to improve your marriage, or maybe you're dating and hoping to choose wisely. Maybe you're trying to make sure you don't screw up your own kids, or you're trying to navigate the relationships of coming into your own as an adult, but still feeling pulls to different ways that don't quite work for you anymore, but that used to because of how you grew up and what you needed. Like, whatever that is, I hope today can help you to have some of the rules of engagement, so to speak, for how to look at what is a healthy relationship. And sometimes what I do is I say healthy and helpful can sometimes be interchanged, right? Because sometimes we have these tools that aren't helpful and they may be healthy, or sometimes we have these tools that are healthy but not helpful. And so we want to kind of try to get a bridge between that, something that is both healthy and helpful in healthy ways. So let's just take a look at what constitutes a healthy relationship. Healthy relationships are not built by accident, right? They're built because people take responsibility, personal responsibility, that I take personal responsibility for how I show up in the world. And hopefully other people are taking personal responsibility for how they show up in the world, right? I'm responsible for how I think, for the actions I take, for the choices I make, for the ways that I care for others, for the words that come out of my mouth and the words that don't. All of those things impact people. And you are responsible for the same. So if you're not happy in your life, take a look at what you are allowing that maybe you should be standing up against, maybe a boundary that needs to be set, maybe advocacy, or maybe stop beating your head against a wall somewhere and take a look at what is helpful and healthy, what is working for you, what isn't, what is needed, and look at it in light of the other person too. What are they missing that they need or that you wish they could bring to the equation that they're not quite getting? Sometimes when you can step back and look at what am I bringing to this situation? What is the other person bringing to this situation? Where are we lacking? Where are we like banging our heads against the wall? Can really give clarity and help a lot of trauma to be prevented, a lot of reenactment of trauma from childhood to be prevented. And so let's just talk about what healthy is in the first place, right? Because we aren't built to be perfect. It would be great if Adam and Eve never sinned and we could all still be living just in paradise, but we are in a fallen world, and so we're doing the best we can. If we know the Lord, we're hopefully striving to do life His way. But He also gives us lots of freedom, and each person is an individual, so we see things differently. I might think the sky is blue. Someone else might be seeing it as shades of gray. We are looking at it through different lenses, and that's how it is with how we interact with each other, how we relationally connect with each other, because we're encoding internal experiences through the viewpoints that we have at that point and our coping skills, our tools, the way we think the rules of engagement are, and putting that out there in the world for another person to then decode and encode their responses through all of those lenses that they wear. And no wonder I have a job, right? Being a counselor allows me to see behind the scenes, and often there's not a bad guy. Often there are hard situations that people have grown up in and didn't realize that they came up with coping skills that no longer work as adults, or that they have needs that they're not advocating for, or that they're defaulting and doing a learned helplessness rather than taking action on choices that they need to make and say, hey, here's a boundary, here isn't. So, all right, let's get into this. So the encouraging news about all of this is that we can learn how to take personal responsibility. Maybe no one modeled for you how to speak up for yourself while respecting others. Maybe no one noticed your feelings and now you neglect your own feelings. Maybe you've spent years repeating unhealthy patterns without realizing it, or relationships just feel so exhausting because you're trying to manage everybody's bad behavior, right? Today, I want us to ask a different question. So instead of asking what's wrong with me, let's ask, how can I show up the way God would have me to? How do I become the person He made me to show up in healthy and helpful ways, both for myself and for others? All right. If you want some encouragement in general, I invite you to go to Facebook and look for the Trauma Healing for Christian Women free community, free group. We'd love to have you answer a few questions and be able to invite you in. It's just a place to connect and have a safe place to discuss things and such. We're still getting up and running. We have about 140 members so far, and we're going to try to do a little bit more on the interaction building so that people can feel that there are people in their corner. And that would be great if you could come and help us do that. We'd love to include you in this for some practical resources and encouragement as you pursue healing. Also, if today's episode resonates with you and you'd like some help healing from trauma, anxiety, unhealthy relationship patterns, church hurt, I'd love to talk with you. You can go to emdrpittsburgh.com to learn more about my counseling offers, and also schedule a free consultation through the link in today's show notes. So, all right, let's jump into this. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is believing that if we could just do something differently, other people would change. We are not responsible for other people changing. We are responsible for our own behaviors. So it's not a matter of getting them to be able to take responsibility for themselves. Although we can shine a light and say, hey, when you do this, this hurts me. Would you please do this instead? I'm not feeling heard or I'm not feeling cared about. We can advocate for ourselves, but we can't make people become something that they aren't. They get to choose how they will grow. They get to choose how they will act. They get to choose how they will treat us. And when we stop giving our power away by expecting them to be different than they are, or expecting that we have to play by their rules and that we'll get different results, we can often find freedom. Now, choosing healthy people is certainly a good thing. So you can look for people who are kind, respectful, personally accountable, on the growth track, trying to be all God has for them to be, who can apologize when they're wrong. But before we spend all of that energy trying to manipulate how other people act in the world or treat us, let's look at ourselves, asking, am I becoming a healthy person? Am I becoming a woman who is stepping into what God has called me to be? And do you know that sometimes the things that are the hardest for my clients are being able to say, that is bad behavior on the part of somebody else, and that is not okay with me. And I am allowed to set a boundary and say, please stop that. Or I am allowed to set a boundary and say, I'm going to step away from this relationship a bit because somebody is hurting me or somebody is being inappropriate, and I've brought this to them as best as I can, and they are still doing something that is not healthy or helpful. And so I need to take action to protect myself. Biblically, we can go to them, we can bring it up to them in a very soft answer, a gentle answer turns away wrath kind of way, just a very, hey, I am feeling this or I am seeing this. Would you consider this, right? Instead of beating someone over the head or you have to do it this way or you're not getting it right or shaming them or anything, just having a discussion. And hopefully a healthy person will be able to respond back, thank you for bringing that to me. I'll look at it. Whether they agree or disagree, they can do it in a mature way where they can interact with you and you can both go, okay, we're either agreeing to disagree or we're making some negotiations and some changes. We're taking personal responsibility. We're clearing up distortions. Or if someone isn't healthy, you being able to say, I am not okay with that. And therefore I will provide what I need, a safe environment by saying no. Kind, comforting words to myself, going to the Lord for scriptures that encourage me, having healthy people around me and limiting my time around these other people, right? You have a lot of power in your life. And part of becoming a healthy person is realizing that you get to say yes to things and no to things, yes to people and no to people. And that is actually godly. Iron sharpens iron, yes, but people also need to be willing to be sharpened. People need to be willing to be honest. People need to be able to advocate in healthy ways for ourselves and to be able to do that with others. But if people can't receive it or other people are not willing to do it, you may be dealing with somebody who is not healthy and helpful. And continuing to, again, knock your head against that same wall is going to just get you bruised rather than if you take responsibility for your actions, your thoughts, your choices, your boundary setting, your serving the Lord, how you live. All of a sudden, things get easier because you're only managing the person God made you to manage and steward yourself. Right? So what we want in noticing, are we a healthy person and how to recognize a healthy person is to notice, are we teachable? Are other people that we're interacting with teachable? Do we repent? Is this person that I'm interacting with willing to take responsibility and turn the other way if they have sinned or done something wrong against me? Can I apologize? Can they apologize? Can I tell the truth? Are they being able to be open and honest, right? Am I growing closer to the Lord, becoming more Christ-like? Are they? right? Galatians 5 gives us a beautiful picture of emotional maturity through the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These are good things, and we will know others, the Bible says, by their fruit. So think about what would happen if everybody were genuinely pursuing those qualities of being able to produce fruit. Would conflict still happen? Yeah. But would it be able to be remedied? Yeah. It could be handled in healthy, helpful ways. There would be humility instead of pride, curiosity instead of assumptions, repair instead of resentment, growth instead of shame or blame. Healthy relationships aren't made by perfect people. They're made by people who are willing to take personal responsibility. So if you're interacting with somebody who is not willing to take personal responsibility for how they interact with you, how they treat you, how they show up in the world, responding when you have needs, it is okay to call them on it and say, hey, I would love for you to be able to hear me right now, and I don't know what I can do differently to get you to listen. Or, I really need this from you, and it doesn't seem like you're doing it, and I don't know what to do now. That's healthy advocating for yourself. But depending on the type of response that you get back, you can then decide, is this someone I am ever going to stop banging my head against a wall with? Or is it up to me to say, oh, they've shown me who they are, and with that information, I am now no longer going to bang my head against the wall. I'm going to realize they can't give me what they don't have to give me because they have chosen not to get it and not to give it. And I need to be okay with saying that I don't need it from them, but I can still take it to the Lord, get healthy people in my life, help myself to have the tools and skills and understanding and compassion for myself, that my needs are valid, that my voice deserves to be heard and respected, and that healthy people can do that, and that I can do that for them. You know, your family of origin was your first classroom. Whether you realize it or not, every one of us learned what relationships look like from how we grew up. It's our first lesson in whether we can trust people, how people show up, what we can expect from them, what's expected of us, how to keep ourselves safe and surviving. Long before we understood psychology, theology, communication, we were learning by the feeling that was in our home. Our nervous systems were picking up on whether we were safe, whether others were safe, whether we could be sincerely held and known, or whether love felt conditional, whether emotions were welcome or whether they weren't safe, whether mistakes brought correction or encouragement to grow and learn, or whether they brought shame, whether conflict ended in repair or ended in silent treatment and guilt and just moved on from, right? It matters how we grew up, but that is not where we need to stay stuck. You can change at any point, but you need to realize how those things impacted you. What coping skills, even unhealthy ones, may have been there because they were necessary so that you could survive. And then to be able to get real with yourself and say, now that I know, how can I heal what I didn't get? How can I get those needs met? And how can I free myself to do a different job, a job that lets me show up in the world differently? And those are things that I can help with, or a good trauma therapist can help with. We can do some parts work, noticing the different parts of you that feel different ways. Maybe you feel obligated to keep the script going, or to take punishment on yourself for things that actually belong to other people's bad behavior. Maybe you feel like you have to constantly people please to be able to be safe. A good trauma therapist can help you to sort through those things and to also look at why you may or may not be setting boundaries in healthy ways. There's a lot that can be done, but it comes back to you taking that personal responsibility to do what is healthy and helpful, because once you do that, you then can impact your world and those you interact with. And we all could use more healthy people in this world. So if you would like to work with me to do some of your own healing work, your own healthy work, your own looking and reflecting and processing through the painful things of life, I do invite you to connect with me for a free consult by going to the link in the show notes or to going to my website, emdrpittsburgh.com, to learn more about my counseling offer. And I would love to hear from you, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care. The content that you heard today is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not to replace professional therapy and is not to be considered a professional therapeutic relationship. If you would like to work with me, please reach out through the contact link in the show notes. I'd love to hear your story. And if you liked what you heard today and would like to share it with somebody or leave a rating and review, we greatly appreciate it so others can listen in too.